So, but then before we move straight into the live coding session, let's wrap up functions and models, which is what we did in our previous class. But then we left it off at some point. So we looked at how to actually create function. We also looked at some arguments. We also looked at the return sentence. But then there was a question someone asked if we could actually access the variable within our function in our external code, and that was where we left off. And I said that when we talk about function scope, we will address that. But then before we actually proceed to that, is there any question pertaining to the previous part, or any question pertaining to um, the code camp that you wish to ask pertaining to the class that you have, pertaining any question? Let's follow it out and let's trash it out. Function scope. No question. All right. So I will assume that we understood everything in our previous class. So we'll just quickly open up our code, and of course we'll start writing some instructions in a Python language. Okay, so I have my own folder in my desktop. So I'll open mine up. So if you could actually if you could actually open your folder by right clicking on it and opening it with VS Code, no problem. But I do not have that, so I have my own way of opening mine. So what I'll simply do is I'll just navigate to this folder on my prompt and then open it from there. Okay, so I'll just go to my CMD. Which by now we are already familiar with this. So I'll just cd into that directory and then open that up with my VS Code. All right, so this was where we left off in our last class. So the question, okay, last question that someone asked was, yeah, I don't know if the person is still on the call. I can't remember the person's name. Yeah, so the person asked if we could simply just access this variable, say result. Let's say I wanted to actually get this result, all right? Can I just come down and like outside my after my function invocation, right? Can I just say let's final result be equals to that variable in that function, right? So to answer that question, we need to understand function scoping, right? So scope only work in function when only work in function for Python, right? But there are in other programming language, scoping actually works in their conditionals as well as loops. But for Python, it works for function. Basically, what scoping is the the level of accessibility of a variable. What do I mean? So if we have a variable that is being defined inside of our function, that variable is can be known as a local variable. Okay, so I think that was right here. So that variable can be known as a local variable. So mean that variable only exists within that function. So outside your function, that variable doesn't exist. So in a situation like this, right, where we have this variable here, right, say result, right? Now, if I simply want to access that result, okay, I can't just come outside the function and, excuse me, I can't come outside the function. Let me comment this. I can't come outside this function. I'll put this down. I can't come outside this function and just say print result. Okay, this would already without even executing this code, you can see that this code actually gives us a warning sign that there is a line drawn underneath there. Now, if I should execute this code, right? So let me confirm that we're not executing anything. Okay, so if I should execute this code, let me go ahead and execute this. If I should execute this code, then we'll get an error, right, saying that the variable result is not defined. Okay, so it means that that Python has tried to execute your file, and within your file, there is this variable doesn't exist. So that variable is can be considered as local variable. So that's basically scoping. So any variable defined inside your function is local to that function. It cannot be accessed outside that function, it cannot be accessed by another function. So it lives, well, should I say it lives and die in that function, right? So it lives and stays there permanently. Outside that function. So I can confidently come outside my function and still have a variable with the same name that has a different value. In this case, say hello, right? And this variable here is different from this variable. Is that okay? Is that understood? Right. So the silence means it is understood. Right. So we also have what we call global variable. Okay. Global variable. And what exactly is global variable? So it's the opposite of what I just finished explaining. So global variables are variables that do not live inside our function. So those are variables that live outside of our function, and they are accessible anywhere. Right? They are accessible anywhere in your function, outside your function. We can access these variables. So I'll give us a typical example. So we'll use this function, or this multiplication function. And outside this multiplication function, I'll have a variable here called new var, right? A new var should be equal to 10. And this function, I wouldn't want it to take anything. And then within my function, inside my function, I can simply access new var. And if we try to execute this function, this should not throw an error because new var there is a global variable, meaning that it can be accessed in and outside of the function. Now, if we execute this, see that we had 10, and that did not actually throw an error. So within the function and outside the function, we can still access that variable. So I can still come outside this function, and I can still say print new var, and that will still work as well. So we should have 10 twice now, right? One for the function and one for the print statement. Is that understood? Question. Right. So that was what that is actually the response to that question that person asked in our previous class. I can't remember the person's name. So we cannot access this variable outside our function. Any variable declared inside the function cannot be accessible outside of the function. Question. No question. No question.
Understood, sir. I was the one that asked the question.
Okay, so who was that? Will be Chuku, right? Okay. All right. So that is that for function. Okay, those are the basis of function. Okay, that is that for function. But then let's look at model, and then we wrap that up completely. So model is similar to functions. Okay, it's similar, but then should I say it's similar. It has same characteristics. It's just that it's we actually structure it differently. Okay, what do I mean? So a model is basically a Python file. Okay, so a model is basically a Python file. Okay, and of course your Python file can carry what, a lot of code. Okay, so basically, so so what are these things? Obichuku say he has a question. Please ask your question, Obichuku, before we proceed. I can't I can't hear you. No, sir, I cannot hear you, sir. Please, can you just type out your question on the comment section? So while waiting for him to type out his question, because I think he said his mic is bad. While waiting for him to type, so let's see a brief overview of what module is, right? So a module is basically a Python file that can contain your Python codes. Okay. Now, what makes it a module is basically that we can transfer those code from that file to another file without necessarily rewriting the code from that file in the new file. I don't know. Does that make sense? All right. So,
Please,
Mr.
can you repeat it? Okay.
Okay. All right. So, I think we have a question on in the comment section. So let's just execute that code and let's see. So here is Mr. Obichuku question. Don't worry, I'll repeat what I just said about models. So we have addition, we have some one, we have some two, we have addition equal to some one plus some two. And then addition results one to one, and it's true. So let's execute this. Let's see what's happening. So let's execute. Let me show that nothing else is being executed along that file, along that instruction. So let's run this. Let's see what is giving us. So it said that all arguments must be a valid integer. So you're trying to get the question. So that the result we got was true. Okay, so if we look at our addition function, right? Where is it? Right here. So our addition function here says that that this man accepts three values, right? Value one, value two, value three, and these values can be any type, right? They can be any type, but then we also have a default value of zero just in case these values are not specified. But if I told these values are specified, then they could be of any type, right? But then in order for us to carry out this addition, all the provided type must be an integer, all of them, for this to actually work. Else, then it must give us this saying that what all argument must be a valid integer. So if you look at the parameters that we provided, I think I saw a conditional sign there. You see this man here is a conditional sign. So automatically this whole expression here has invalidated our condition, because this whole expression there will return a boolean value, which is not an integer type. So as such, that can actually add, because you can't add true or false, because if you do this and say that if this is the same thing as this plus this, of course that it will be the same thing, because your addition result is basically the sum of some one plus some two, right? So this will definitely be the same thing with this. So this man here is true, and this man here is saying that if some one is the same thing as addition minus some two, which is actually true. This here is also true, right? Which can actually carry out that addition, because the three values you provided with all of them are Boolean values. So except we come here and we change this to bool and say add this only when the three of them are bool. But then how can we add bool? True plus true plus true. Definitely return true. So if you execute this, then this should give us true. But nothing actually happens. Nothing did happen. So we can add that true plus true is what? Anyone? So that's where you're getting your true from. That's because the values you provided were Boolean values. Okay. And then our condition say only add integers, right? Only add when they are all ints. Have I answered your question? All right. Okay, so back to models again. Back to models again. So I said that models are basically a Python file, right? And of course, a Python file can carry a lot of code. So these are Python files, right, that we have here, and they carry what codes, and they carry statements and they carry instructions. Okay, so those are all Python files. Now, what makes this Python file a model is that we can simply do what reuse this code or reuse any of the instructions in a specific file in one file without necessarily copying the code from that file to this file. What do I mean? Let's assume that I'm working with this file called class5.py, right? And I wish to use, let's say, I wish to use a variable somewhere at class2.py. So I could simply do what? I could simply use this variable, right? Age, without necessarily copying this whole code down to what, to my class 5. Does that make sense? Should I
Yeah.
that's that again?
If
Okay.
if if I'm understanding, it
Okay.
is a kind of function that you can use in multiple pi as and multiple files, as long as you have already defined that function in one of the set of files that are there.
Exactly. Exactly. So
Okay.
that's the concept of models. And the fantastic thing is that it actually aids in code sharing. Let's say I have a file that I've written a set of instructions pertaining to user authentication, right? And then if I'm having problem with my user authentication, I could simply just send you the file pertaining to what to only user authentication without necessarily doing was sending my entire project file for you. So that's one interesting thing about models. And let's see how we can actually do this, right? Let's see how we can actually do this. So I will create a file. I'll simply just create a new file and I'll call this file mod.py, right? And I'll create a new file again and I'll call this file source.py. All right, so we have our mod. Sorry, the file is being arranged in alphabetical order. So we have our mod there, we have our source here. What was this? Why you have to name this file like this? All right, so we have our mod and we have our source. And source is spelled wrongly, sorry. So I'll rename that. All right. So assuming that this is or this should be my source or my module, or I wish this file to be my to be my module, okay? A file that I can actually do what insert in other files without being what necessarily copying all the instructions from this source file to that other file. So let's assume that I have a set of variables, okay? So I would define some variables here, variables, and I'll have say A equals to 10, I have B equals to 20, and I have C equals to 30, right? And I could also have functions, okay? So I'll define certain functions, and I'll call this function, remember def, I'll call this function addition. We already have one, addition, okay? And this function will take two variables, A, comma B, and should simply return A plus B. Okay, so I could have another one, another function. This should be function. She could also have another one, and this could be subtraction now. Subtraction, and this could be A minus B. All right, for now. Okay, so let's assume that this is and this could be my source or my sample code, a code that I wish to use whenever I want to use it without doing what without necessarily copying the entire source code down to the file I wish to use it in, right? And let us also have a mod file here, and this file is more like my main file. Let me rename this to main. I think that makes a lot of sense. So this is like my main file. So this is where my entire software or my entire my project is, right? Let's say I'm giving a project and this is the file that's holding the entire source code. So what happens is that I have probably I want to make use of I want to actually make use of addition and subtraction function, right? And I already have it somewhere in a file. So I could simply just come to the file and do what and copy this whole thing and take it back to this man, all right, and put it here and do what and use it whenever I want to do what use it. But this actually makes sense because the code is quite small. Right? At times you may have a very long line of code, like thousands to a million lines of code. So imagine copying the million of lines of code back down here again, just to use one or two functions from it. Okay, so we can do what we can put those files the way where it was and simply do what import them to our main file, right? And how do we do that? How do we do this? So there are several ways that we can actually do the importation. So these are just notes, okay? So like I said, they are basically reusable Python files that contain. So they are similar to functions, right? So the thing is that instead of writing them on the same source on the same file, you know what? We separate them in a different file, right? So they allow you to do what to organize and reduce your code, dividing it into logical. Okay, so those are more like a definition that you guys can actually look through them. That's okay. So here is importing of what of models. So we can actually import these things, okay, based on what based on our specific need. So we can actually import what the entire model, meaning that we can actually bring the entire file down to that file, right? Or we can actually select a specific function or a specific variable down to what to that file, or we can as well do what rename this importation. Like after actually importing this module or this specific function, we can rename it to actually avoid what naming conflict. And they also have you can actually import a module from packages. And I know you are already asking what's the difference between a module and packages. So modules are basically a collection. Oh, sorry, packages are basically a collection of modules. So you will have a folder that contains as many Python files or as many Python modules, and then you simply want to get just one of that module. So that collection is what we know as packages, right? Is that okay? Since I'm talking too much, I hope you're following.
Yes, I'm following.
All right, okay, all right. So instead of us copying everything, okay, down to our main file, we can do what we can actually copy the whole file without actually copying the whole file. So how do we copy the whole file? That's where we do what where we do an entire module importation. So to actually carry out an entire module importation, we make use of the word import. So if I intend to do what to bring this entire source code down to my main.py without necessarily copying the code down here, so I can simply use the keyword import. And once Python sees the keyword import, it knows that you're bringing what a file into this file without doing what necessarily copying the code from that file down here. So what they expect now is what is your module name. So in this case, is your file name without the extension. So in this case, is source. Right? So you will not add the extension here again. So you won't do source.py, right? So you simply put just the module name. Python automatically assume that file or that name is what is a Python file. So you don't need to specify the file extension. So you just put the file name there, and that we've done what we've with this one line of code, right? We've been able to do what to copy 12 lines of code down to our file without doing what copying the 12 lines of code down to our file.
Please, sir.
Question.
You know, I'm actually really interested in these models.
Okay.
And I have a question.
Okay.
Can you do same thing for other what's it called programming like can you import other codes that are not Python related to Python
Python file
with this import? Yes, to this import with this import what's it called keyword.
Okay. So let's assume that you have a JavaScript file and you want to move your JavaScript code to this Python file.
Yes, yes. You have something that is interesting in your JavaScript and you
Okay,
want
and you
to
want
bring
to
it, you want to relate
yes
it to your
to
code
Python.
here.
All right, all right. So the thing is that that cannot work, unfortunately, because Python
Okay.
understands its own syntax. JavaScript syntax is different from Python syntax. So Python will not be able to interpret that syntax. All right. So that's why
Okay,
that
okay.
would not work. So it must be a Python file so that Python can do what can understand what is happening in that file. All right. So that's basically how we do what we carry out an entire module importation. So with this, I now have access to all the files here. So let's assume I wanted to print the value of A in my main.py, right? So I could simply just say print. So I won't just write A because A is nowhere to be found in our file. But then A can be found in our model. So since we are importing everything, so it means that to access a single variable or a single function, we must use the dot notation. Dot notation. Let me put that up there. Dot notation. So where we basically reference each attribute or each function after a dot. What do I mean? Assuming I wanted the A there, I could just simply say source dot A and get access to the variable A. And then when I just run this, then I should have the value of A being what? Being 10. Same thing happens with the function. So assuming I wanted to get this function and then pass in two values to carry out the addition, what I could simply do is I could just simply say source dot addition, and since addition is not is a function, so I have to invoke it. And this man here takes in what two required values, so I can pass in my 10 and comma 20, and then execute this. This should now work, which did not work. So let's see what's happening here. If you execute this, okay, so let's assign this to okay, yeah, that's true. So why that is not actually working is because we have what should I say, why that's not actually displaying that result is because we have a return statement. So to actually have that result, that the value of that return, we need to actually assign it to a variable, then we can print that variable. But if we just wanted to see what that would be, then we just simply just put print here rather than doing rather than actually returning. And that way, once we invoke, it will just simply display display the expected result. Okay, so with that, if we go back to our main and invoke, this should now display that result of 30.
Sorry, sir. Please, can you go through it again? Why the return will not work?
Okay. So okay, let me just execute this source file, right? So let's use this particular file as a case study, right? Let's look at it properly. Now we have two functions here, right? And then before now we had return. So I'll comment this. Before now we have return A plus B. Okay. And then if I invoke addition, I will pass in two values, right? 10, 20. Now this actually executes, right? Because this is the only instruction within that within our function, right? So it simply says after invoking this, simply do what, just return the addition of those two numbers. So the return actually it actually assigns that result to that function, right? So that's why if we invoke this, the function actually owns the result. So the result is there, but then it's within this function. So that to actually view it, you can either assign this function to a variable and then you can display that variable. Okay, because remember every function has a default value, and if we move this, if we comment this out and then I put here and then I come here and I say pass for now, and then I execute this again, nothing showed, right? But then this function has a value. Its value is there, and then to actually access that value, we can assign it to a variable. Say in this case, I could say x equals to this, and then simply just print x. Simply just print x, and then we can have what none being what the default function value, right? But then if we simply come here and then say print, so the thing here is that it will only print actually means display, right? So it means that once I invoke this function, display what the addition would be. It's two different things than saying okay that the results of this function is what is this. So print is basically saying display. So in that case, I don't even need to actually pass this to a variable to get or to see what the result will be, because already within our function there is a print statement saying go ahead and just display, right? So if we invoke this will just actually just display. But then this function still owns a value. Remember, it still owns a value of but of none. And to actually get that value, you can simply do what? Assign it back to a variable, and then do what? Print the variable x. And then we should now see two values now, being what? 30 and none. Where none is the actual function value, and 30 is just the displayed value. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes.
All right. Is there another person that's having difficulty with that? Should I re-explain that? No question. All right. So let me re-explain again. Okay. So what is happening here is this. All right. Remember that the default behavior of Python is to do what? Is to execute your code line by line, right? It's to execute the code line by line. So it's the same thing when you invoke a function, right? It will execute that function line by line, right? So let's assume that within our addition function, I have a is equals to 50, right? We all know that this a here, right, is different from this a, right? A here is what is local. This other a is what is global. So I could have I could have a is equals to 10. Oh, sorry, equals to 50. B equals to 100, and C equals to, let's say, 200, right? Now, if I execute this function, what happens? Nothing happened, but something actually did happen there. But nothing really happened. Something happened, but nothing really happened. All right. What do I mean? So it means that when I invoke this function, it will start from the first instruction for that function, which is doing what? Assign the value 50 what to A, assign the value 100 to B, assign the value 200 to C. That's and nothing happened, right? We never ask the function to display anything or do anything, right? But then that's why if we execute it, nothing should, right? Nothing should, because the function just simply followed the instruction of doing what, of assigning 50 to A, now come and assign 100 to B, now come and assign 200 to C. Nothing displayed, nothing showed, nothing happened. That's because, of course, within your function instruction, there was no point where you say display this or do this. We were simply doing what? Assigning values to variables. So it will execute the instruction line by line, right? But if at some point an answer, okay, fine, go ahead and display the value of but there will be a problem here. The problem here is that this will override this here. We override this value that we provide here. So let's go ahead and use x, y, z, please. X, y, let's go ahead and use x, y, z. Okay. So now if at some point an answer go ahead and display the value of x, then if I should execute this again, right? I should now have what 50, right? But then before this 50 was being displayed, this happened, right? Then this happened, right? And then this happened before this finally happened. But then, but then we also know that what someone is drawing on my screen. We also know that what that that this function has what a default value because there is no return statement, right? And if I want to get the default value of this function, or if I want to get the actual value of this function, not a print statement, but the actual value, I could simply do what? Assign it to a variable, right? And do what? And display that variable, and I do what? And I will get the result of that function, the actual value of the function. Now, if we run this again, we should now see what two values, okay, as expected. Now, but then before we arrive at these two values, what happened? This happened, right? This didn't happen. Then this didn't happen, and then this was then displayed. The value of x was then displayed, which is what 50. But then after that invocation, we still said we assign the function to what to a variable in order to see what the actual value of what of the function, which in this case is what is known by default, right? That is what actually happened. So Python will still execute your code line by line, right? And then return is not the same thing as print, please. I think that's what's actually confusion. A return here actually means assign this result to this function here, so that if I should assign this function to a variable, I can do what? I can get this result, right? So the return does not display; it's only assigned. It's similar to what we're doing here, but then it's actually assigning this value here to the function itself. Does that make sense? All right. Is there anyone still having problems? Should we continue, or should I reset that again?
So please, I have a question.
Okay, ask the question.
Why doesn't the print A minus B print out anything?
Okay, mean this.
Yes, that's
All right, that's because we've not actually invoked the subtraction function. We only invoked addition function. And like I said in our previous class, that the way function behaves is that it can stay dormant. It stays dormant in your code unless they are being called upon. So since we never called this function, this line never get to execute. So it just stays there. Is that okay?
yes, sir.
All right. Any other question? All right. So first, so let me run the code again for so we get to see the result again. So that is the result of our code. 50 being what? The displayed information, right? And then 30 being what? The assigned value, because that's what the return does. It assigns this to the function itself, in such that you can do what we can assign that function to a variable to get this. All right. So that is the reason why our main did not actually display anything. That's because we never had display. But then if you go back now and execute, this should now give us a display of what of 50. Now where is this 50 coming from? The 50 is coming from where? From x. X what is 50, and we say that within our function, go ahead and display that 50. Is that okay? Is that okay? Question. All right, so the silence means no question. So we could proceed, right? So that's how you do what that's how we actually import what a whole. Someone said that okay, Miss I want to believe that now it's quite complicated. Okay, so please unmute yourself and ask a question, please. Okay, the last comment. What's the question?
Hello, good evening. Is
Good
this
evening.
part I don't really understand, this source dot addition? Okay, I get that the source is from the main our source PI. But
Okay.
the addition part 1050, Why are we getting 50? Then 20. Why are we getting 50?
So why are we getting 50? All right, so this why we are getting 50 is because within our addition function, which exists in our source file, there is a point that says print x, and x is a local variable to that function, and x owns a value of 50. That's where that 50 is coming from. Now, the reason why we're not seeing the result of 10 plus 20 is because not that the result is not there, is there, but to actually have this, remember, to actually see the actual result of a function, not a print statement, but the actual result, we can do what we can assign that to a variable. Remember, so if I assign this to x and then print x, I should now have 50 alongside with the actual result. So if I run this again, we now have 50 being what? The 50 from our x there, and the 30 being what? The return value, right? The actual
Okay.
value of the
Okay.
function.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other question? No other question. All right. So that is how we can actually import an entire model to our file. But at times, we may not actually want to import everything down to our file, because what you are seeing here, this one line that you are seeing, Python is seeing how many lines? Python is already seeing about 16 lines already. We're not 16 lines, but then this just the lines that actually contains the code, right? But then we are seeing we are seeing just one line, but Python has seen about 15 to about 14 lines of code already. So what happens when we import a module that actually contains about 10 billion lines of code, right? And funny enough, we only want to use probably just a small section of about 2 lines in the entire 10 billion lines of code. So we say that we are already overloading the program. We are giving the program unnecessary lines of code that we likely not use. Okay. So when I stress the compiler, when we simply just pick the specific ones. So that is where we do what that's where we can do a specific module importation. So going back again, all right, I'll comment this again. Comment this. I'll still leave my source there. I'll comment that as well. Now let's assume that I want just addition function out of all these lines. I don't want A, I don't want C, I don't want subtraction, I just need addition alone. So how do I do this? It's simple. That's we can use the from keyword, right, along with the import keyword. So it's just like English. From this, bring that. Okay, that how it will sound. So what after specifying your from, then you want to specify your model name, right? So in this case, I'm not saying from source. Remember, our model is source. So from source, then do what? Import and then the specific function or the specific attribute. So in this case, I'll say import addition. And with that, Python is only going to go and do what? Bring only this line of code, forgetting about the rest of the code, right? So that's how we can import a specific function or a specific attribute. So I could not see. So now doing that, after actually bringing a specific function, right? I don't have to use the dot notation again, right? Since I've bring it since I've singly bring it out, so I don't have to reference it with dot notation again. So I could just simply use it directly like that. Addition followed by what 10, comma 20, and this will work as expected. We have our 50. Remember, 50 is from the print statement. Now, if I still want to have my 30, I can say x equals to copy this, which we have by now, which we use to copy and paste and editing. So if I execute this now, I now have my 50 alongside. Okay, sorry. I still need to place my x. So I should now have 50 alongside my 30 there. So we're having 50, 50, 30. Now the reason for that is that the first 50 is from here. Of course, this actually did it both. So that's where the second 50 is actually coming from. So we can as well have we can as well import more than one specific attribute. So we can simply do that by using commas. So if I wanted addition alongside with b, just addition function alongside with the variable b, right? So I don't necessarily have to do this again and say copy and paste and then I change this to b, right? I don't have to actually do that. What I could simply do is I could just simply put a comma here and just put b there, and that would still work. So now it simply means from source bring addition, also bring b, but not the entire model. So I could just simply print b, print b. Excuse me, I will simply print b, and we are good to go. So if I run this again, we should have 50, 50, 30 value for b. Excuse me. So we have a 50, 50, 30, and then 20. Question. Question. No question. No question. All right. So the silence means no question. All right. So let's look at how we can also rename packages. So this is entire importation. I'll copy this and I'll bring it down here, and I'll call this specific importation. All right, so I will still comment this out again, and we'll say copy this again. These are just for reference sake. Renaming importation. Renaming importations. All right, so I'll clean this source code for now, or probably I'll comment it out for now. All right, so let's see how we can rename importation. So what is the essence of renaming, or where would we want to rename an importation? And let's assume that before we even went and bring our source, right, the entire model down here, I already have a variable for source, right, that is holding what a value of what KodeCamp, right? And then I now went ahead and then, of course, I import my entire source again down there, okay? And then, but then within my source, I already have a variable called source. And then when I try to say source dot let's say a, right? Let's say print the source dot a, this code here. I run this code down here. If I say print source dot a, if I execute this, what happens? It gives us an error saying that string has no attribute a. Why is that? Now the reason for that is that we brought in a model, but already we have a variable with what a value of KodeCamp. So at this point, Python knew that source was a model, but at this point, this changed. Python now knows source to be what a string, called a string of what KodeCamp. So now we are trying to do what to access an attribute a from KodeCamp, and KodeCamp is just a string and not a model. So as such, we want to have a way of renaming this. Now, we could have suggested that we could just simply come here and change this to new variable, right? New, or let's say new for now, and that will work, right? And that looks wonderful and easy, right? But what if you have that same variable used all over your project, scattered all over your entire project? Does that mean that you will now be going one after the other to be changing source to new, right? Okay, so that wouldn't be a nice idea. So what we could simply just do, we could simply just rename this, being that this is just coming in now. So we haven't used this yet in our project. So we just rename this one rather than coming to the word to rename this one that we've used all over our project. And how do we rename? We simply attach as. So it's just like plain English. import source as, and then give a what, an alien name or an alias name. Okay, and in this case, I could say I want source to be CSRC, right? So basically, what am I telling Python now? I'm telling Python that please bring in the source model, but I want to use it as well as SRC, or I want to reference it as well as SRC. So in this case, I will simply use what SRC here, okay, rather than what source, and that will do what work. So we have our value of A being what 10. Does that make sense? Question? No question. So we could simply we could do the same thing. We could do the same thing. We could do the same thing for specific importations. So we could just simply say from source. So we just simply say from source import A as maybe I had a variable somewhere called A. Let's say variable here A equals to 10. No, let's say A equals to hello. And then if I just leave it like that, I'd say import from source import A, then the value of A is what is the value of A is what is 10. Okay, and since I have actually specifically bring A, so I don't have to reference source.a again. I could just simply say A, right? That the source. And now we are now having hello as A instead of what of 10. So in that case, there is need for what for renaming. So we could just simply do similar thing as maybe new A. And then this man here will now be seen as what as new A. As new A. And then when we execute this, we now have 10. Question. Question.
Sorry,
No
please,
question.
sorry, please, the new A part.
Okay. Sorry?
The
I
A
didn't
and
get
the
the
new.
question.
Please, can you repeat the A and the new A part, please?
Okay. All right. So what I said was this. Okay, so similar to what we did with source, right? That we can also do what we can also say we can also make changes to what were specific importations, right? So and then I said that what if we wanted to do what to import just A, right, and not the entire model like we did before, right? Just need the value of A alone in our code here, and then usually we could just do this A, right, from source. So do what? Go ahead and import what A, and then we just simply come here and say print A, right, and that will work. But then the problem here is that what if we've already had an existing variable in our main code that has the same name A, and then we've used this variable all over our project. So it wouldn't be nice that we change the existing one and then change it all over the entire project, right? That it will be it will be more convenient. We change the one that just came in, right? Yeah, which is what the A from the source. Because as of now, if I try to print that A and then I run this, I have hello as the value of A. Let me close this and run it again. So I have the value of hello instead of what of 10 being what the expected value. So and answer that we could as well do what change its name or give it another name by using what they ask keyword as we did with the source. So I could now say, okay, let the A be seen as new A. That way, this new A will not conflict with the existing A's. So I could simply now say, okay, print new A instead of what of A, which is what the existing variable in the main.py. So if I execute this now, I can now have the expected result of what of 10 instead of what of hello. Is that understood?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay, so apart from us writing our own models, Python also provides us with built-in models, right? So there are built-in models that we can do that we can use. Is there a question? So there are built-in models that Python actually provide, and we're gonna look at them. We're gonna look at a few of them. All right, so we have standard library models. So these are just few of them. There are a lot of them. There are a lot of them. And then you start seeing them once you start building projects, and you get to actually discover that there are such existing models. There is no law that says that you must cram all of them, right? Nobody will ask you to list out all the models in Python. Nobody. Right? So nobody will do that. But then you should know that there are common ones. So these are the common ones that we use almost every time in our day-to-day coding. So one of them is the OS model. So basically, this one has some function that can alter your file in your hard disk. This one can do your file from your hard disk. So in all you do, please be careful when you are using this man, so you don't lose files. Right? So you don't use files. So that man they can actually delete your files. So we have the math model, we have datetime, we have random, we have CSV, we have JSON, we have URL lib, we have the regular expression, we have collection. So these are just basic ones, very basic ones. Okay, so well, and they also follow the same standard, right? They also follow the same standard of importation. We can import the entire model. We can import a specific function, and there is nothing wrong if you actually want to look up this model, because you know that there is a function right there that there is a model called random, but you may not likely know, or you may like. So it's very okay. Please confirm that you can hear me clearly. Can you hear me? Hello. All right. So like I was saying that we have common ones, and then I said that you may know that there is a model called random, but you may not actually know the existing function or the function that lives within this model. And it's very okay, it's very okay for you to look up these models in Google, right, to see what function it has and how this function works, right? So you can actually import it, but then you may not know how each of these functions works. So there are a lot of them, and trust me, you cannot memorize all of them. So let's assume that we want to use random model, of course, and this is out. And you could just go to something. W3 schools is much recommended. Right, please, if you are looking for resources, I recommend W3 schools. So you could just go to W3 schools and you see explanation based on the method available. So these are all the methods. So imagine you cramming all these methods just for one model. What would you now do with other models? So you say that these methods are much for one model to do what to actually have, but then they are existing. Patterns have written this code and dumped it for you, and you can use it at your convenient time. So apart from your own custom models, there are standard library models, and random is one of them. Always is one of them. Regular expression, and there are a lot of them, right? There are a lot of them. There's request model, right? There's request model as well. So let's just look at some few wonderful functions here, some wonderful method within the random model. So the mostly used ones is random. So random actually returns a random number between a given range. So we remember that our project that I said that we'll come back to. Right? So let's go back to that project, right? Let's go back to that project. And that should be exercise 3. A random number, right? And then we had a random number here, but then this random number here, we already knew it as 5, right? So let's make it in a way that the programmer can actually know it as well. So in that case, we can actually use random, right? So there are a lot of levels, please. These levels are just much. Just as when you have a specific task, you can look up if there's an available module that can actually help you in that specific task, right? And in this case, we need the random module. Since random actually have some method that can help us randomize numbers. So similar to how we actually do importation, right? So I could just say import random, right? So since it's a built-in module, this file does not have to live in your directory. It's just there in Python. Python knows it. Python is aware of it. So you don't have to create a file called random.py. The file is just there. Right? So Python knows it. So and this here is what is an entire module importation. And in this case, I only want to make use of what of randint, right? I only want to make use of what of randint, this man here. So imagine me now bringing everything here, all these things. And these things are just methods that have existing about 50 to 100 lines of code in them, right? Which doesn't actually make sense. So I'll just simply do what? Bring just this man here, just this man here, just this man here. So I will do that by simply doing what? Going back and telling and using what the from keyword. So I'll use my from keyword, and then I'll say from random import run int, right? So the way run int works is that it will give you, it will pick a random number from a specific range, right? And how it works, so I could simply say, let this be my run int, and I want it to be from range, so pick a number from, let's say, from 1 all the way to, let's say, 10. So what happens is that for each time you execute this code, it will randomly pick any number between what 1 and 10. This number I do not know. Okay, so you can't know this number except you do what, you actually execute this code, and then you get to actually print the number. Then maybe you could actually see it. Right. So in this case, this complete. Now, if I run this now, then everything should work as expected. So now it says guess a number. At this point, I don't even know if it's 5. So if I put in 5 here, it says too high. So it says, so now you can see that our round number is no longer 5, right? So now it says too high, so it means it should be somewhere around 2. Too low, so it should be 3. Too low, 4 then. So 4 was what the random number that was picked, right? If I execute this again, then it will have what, another random number, right? So but if I put 4, I don't think it should be 4. See that, so now you will see that our random number is no longer 4. That's changed. So it says too high. So if I go for 1, too low. If I go to 3, too high. So 2 is right answer, right? So if we do it again, we definitely get what, another number. So if I try to, which I don't think it should be this time around, too low, so it's 1 then. Too low. Oh, too low. So we should go up the ladder for 3. All right, so that is basically built-in modules in Python. So we import them exactly the same way we import ours, right? We import them exactly the same way we import ours. Is that okay? Question. Question. No question. No question.
Please, I have a problem.
Okay.
Okay, I imported my source and it's showing a red line, a yellow line under the source.
Okay. Please confirm that the source you imported is of the same spelling and of the same case. These names are case sensitive. Please confirm that and let us know. Any other question? Any other question? Right. The silence means no other question. So we also have third-party models, right? So these are models that someone sat down and they what and wrote. I can sit down and write a model and do what and tell you, please use it in your Python code. So these are models that are external. Python is a Python file, right? But then it's external, right? It's external. So you have to actually do what install them and make use of them. And to carry out this installation, we make use of a command. We make use of a package manager in Python. So we can use pip or we can use conda if you are using Anaconda though for your installations. But then pip is one of the mostly used package manager in Python. And we will see how we can install this third-party package. So these are packages that are not your own and they are not built in Python, right? There's someone else's package. So we're simply doing what? Borrowing it and using it in our project. But in order for Python to enable us to do what? To import them, we will need to do what? Install it in our project and then we can do what? Import it. And we will see how we can do that, right? We will see how we can do that. So let's look for a package, right? And in the future, we are going to make use of a package called Fast API because this is what this track is about, to build back-end development using Fast API. Fast API is not your package. Neither is it Python built-in package. So you need to do what we need to actually install it and do what and import it and use it in our project. All right, so we can do that by going to our command prompt and then we just pick install the package and then we can import it and start using it. So I won't really want to go deep into third-party installation because as we move forward, we will start doing them. When we get into proper, we'll start doing third-party importation. So we will see how we can make use of pip to actually do this. But for demonstration's sake, right? So what you simply just do is you go to your command prompt and then just type pip, right? Followed by the command install, and then your package name. So in this case, if I want to install Fast API, I'll just put Fast API and then I'll click enter. But I'll not do this, right? But that's how we are gonna actually do that. So when we get there, we will see how we can make use of third-party packages. So there are a lot of third-party packages, right? And if you just go to Google, you will basically just search for third-party package, and Google will do well to list them out for you. If only this man here will shift, so I can access my new tab. Okay, third-party list the Python third-party models. And we just have a few of them. So we have Matplotlib, we have Request, we have Pandas, we have Ticket, Inter, we have MySQL, DB, we have Keras. We have a lot of them. We have a lot of third-party packages, right? So these are Python. Someone sat down, wrote his own Python file to solve a specific task. And then if you also want to solve a similar task, you simply do what? You simply do what? Install that file into your own file and then you can start using it. So someone sat down and wrote a package for Matplotlib. Matplotlib is used for plotting graph. It's basically for those into data science. Okay, but this here is not data science track. I won't really go deep into it. But if you click on it, they should tell you what is a 2D graph plotting library. So someone sat down and wrote it, right? And then if you want to plot graph, right, you can just do what? You can bring in that file and start using the available methods in that file, right? So and request, on the other hand, is a library for making what? For making HTTP request. And of course, we are gonna see how we can use request, because of course requests have something to do with fast API and backend development, because in fact web development you need requests, right? Requests will come in there. So when we dive in there, we'll see how we can start making use of third-party packages. Where short question. No question. All right. The silence means no question. Okay. So in the absence of question, we would like, is someone trying to ask question? Someone's mic is okay. Mr. Kensley. Mr. Kensley. Good evening, sir.
Yes.
Mr. Kensley, we are finding it difficult to hear you.
I hear you, but I wonder you will not hearing me. Hello.
Okay, so I think I'm beginning to hear you properly now. Okay, so I think we've lost Mr. Kensley there completely. All right, so please, Rep, after, please remind me. Let me see. So I could share this file with us for reference sake. So I could just zip this folder and share with us. Please, after the class, let me just put a reminder across to me, and I'll do that alongside with slide. I know I keep forgetting those things, but yeah.
Okay, sir. Have you?
But yeah, hopefully I should send them. All right, then. Okay, so my own question is, how is our tax going? How many of us have finished? I believe that we've all finished now, right?
Yes, I'm done with mine. I completed yesterday.
Okay.
No, sir.
Not done it too.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, please go on.
I have a question regarding the tax.
But please, no, that I'll not give you hints though, but then ask.
No, yes. The
Right.
reflection on strength and weaknesses, is it to be submitted?
The what, sorry?
You know, in the tax, there's a part that says you should you reflect on your strength and weaknesses. Is that to be submitted?
Yes, I presume it should be.
Because the submission says only the grid profile and action plan. That's what the question says to be submitted.
Okay, then submit those two and leave the rest.
It actually says a Google link containing a screenshot of your grid score and grid profile.
Okay.
So there are other things that we're asked to do, like share your grid profile with a partner group and provide feedback. That feedback, is it to be submitted?
If if that was part of the tax, then yes, it should be submitted. So just wrap up everything in the folder, in your Google Drive folder, and make that folder accessible. Then submit that Google link.
Okay, so in other words, your reflection on strength and weaknesses is to be submitted. That's what I wanted to clear up.
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Yeah. So at times, okay. Miss Precious, ask a question before I come in.
Good evening, sir.
Okay.
What
Yes, I can hear you. We can hear you.
What's the difference between packages and framework?
Packages and framework. Fantastic question. So packages, like I said, is a collection of your models. So if you have more than one model, and then you put them all of them in one folder, that folder now becomes a package, right? Then also, then a framework is a collection of packages. Now, a framework gives you all the tools you need to build a software. Example, Django. Django is a web framework. Is that okay, Miss Precious? Did you get the explanation?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. All right. Any other question? Okay, Gaius, please.
Sir, good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Okay, I've completed the task, but I dropped the wrong link in the submission box by mistake.
Gaius, I mean, God, no. Gaius,
Sir?
why would you drop? Can you hear me? Hello, Mr. Gaius.
Yes, sir.
Is it with us? All right. There's fire on the mountain, Mr. Gaius. You dropped a wrong link. Okay, so this is what you do, Mr.
Yes.
Gaius, right? So you reach out to admin, okay? So you reach out
Okay.
to admin and then let him know this on before time, please. If possible, let him know this like now, like as I'm talking, you should be finding admin somewhere in your Discord and be dropping
Okay,
this.
sir.
Yes, he will handle that appropriately, please.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, sir. All right.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, I think I have a suggestion that might be able for that.
Okay.
So, the wrong link you submitted, you can just check it and probably transfer your assignment to that document instead. If
Please
the,
don't
if
want
I
to,
am going to respond to that.
don't want to kill this man. Please, Mr. Ibrahim.
Yes, sir.
Fantastic.
Just a suggestion, actually.
That should work, please. I think girl, that's what you should do. Please transfer that file to that wrong link folder. Put it there.
Don't forget to make it public as well.
Yes, that works. Mr. Anthony Collins.
Yes, I wanted to ask the assignment that we say we should do. They said the deadline is today around 11:59. What if
11:59
I submitted?
11:59 p.m. Yes.
Yes. So I submitted mine around 12 on the dot. So this to be marked.
Around 12 on the dot. Yeah, as far as you've submitted it, no problem. As far as that link, that aspect of submitting it, no problem. So it's better to submit. It's better late than never, right? All right, Mr. I want to assume that.
So in essence, the assignment, the task, you can no longer do it.
Mr. Obada, have you done your task? Because that question sounds like you.
No,
you've
I have not done it. I was intending on doing it before the end of today.
Well, when was it? When was the deadline? Is it today?
I have no idea.
By 11:59.
Ray, please, is it today or yesterday?
Yes, by 11:59. Today is 29. Yes.
Okay. Obada, I think you have few hours. You can wrap that up.
Okay.
Please.
Okay.
Please, I'm begging. Let us submit it. I'm begging us. That's why I'm begging us, because the one I am now begging us. You also beg us. Please, let's submit it, please. I'm begging us. All right, so Mr. Ola, oh God, Ola.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Oladimeji, it's Oladimeji, actually.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Please ask a question though.
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir. Yeah,
Right.
it's regarding the assignment.
Okay.
Actually, I have submitted mine, but I heard one of my colleagues saying that actually he asked the question that do we need to submit the reflection and feedback part. So after doing the assignment yesterday, I actually pasted on Discord, like I dropped the link so as for people to share their just to give me feedback. So in fact, it was only one person and the feedback was just good. That was all. So I decided to drop it. Actually, I was thinking, okay, maybe according to what he asked, that we should we should add the feedback and reflection to the assignment before submission. So since that was what he dropped, I felt, well, I don't know, I just submitted it like that without that. So, and since there was no one, I was like, that's why I say, let me ask the question that I hope it's not going to affect that much.
But
There's no, sir?
No, as far as you submit the key thing is that you must submit it. Like I said, it's better you submit it. So if you have actually submitted it, then you are good to go, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
All right, so 2 minutes to go. Any other question?
So don't forget the slide and the link.
Okay. I will send that. Okay. All right. So in the absence of any other...
I have a concern. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. So it has been occurring like frequently now. So because I most times I usually join the class late, and it's concerning the YouTube link. Please I want to request that the video be uploaded as soon as the class ends, like the day of the class itself, because I would like to go through it before the next class. And most times it's on the day of the next class I usually find the link on YouTube. So I'm usually just concerned about this.
Okay. That
Thank you
will
very
be
much.
considered. Yeah, that will be considered. This thing has to be worked out as well. But that will be considered. Thank you very much for that. So any other question or concern?
Oh, so Mr. Sivu, it's not really a question. It's it's like I want to thank everyone for nominating me to be the class rep. But like I said earlier, there will be times when I'll have poor network where I am. So I was just hoping you people can bear with me if I don't represent you well.
That's why you have assistant. That's why you have Miss. I think you have to learn that with Miss Messi, right? As you have your back. I think that's in the whole essence of the rep and assistant. If you're not available, then your assistant should be available. Two of us cannot just be unavailable. If that happens, then I will assume that two of you are together, somewhere together. All right, please do have a wonderful weekend, right? And I'll see you guys on Monday, right? I'll see you guys on Monday. And please remember, practice next one. All right, practice next. Not perfection though, but then it does help. All right. So please have
the link on Zoom or on the Discord channel.
Discord.
Okay.
Okay. All right, please do have a wonderful good night rest, and I'll see you guys on Monday. Bye.
Bye. Thank you, sir. Bye.